Hi, my name is Aurora, and I have the blog called Alchemy of Truth and the channel Alchemy of Truth. There's something that I would like to share just on my general observations in terms of the situation on the planet as it is now, and that's the subject of terraforming, the AI terraforming, to be more specific, and the transhumanist agenda. So think of this excerpt or this little podcast as just a little bit of a brief on general things that have just come to mind over the last few months or so. First of all, I want to say thank you to everyone that's been subscribing to my channel and that we're all following through with this information that we receive and that we share with each other. Okay. I'm discussing the subject of internet addiction. It's an actual disorder that's been recognized in a few countries, I think in the UK as well. In China. I believe there's also mention of it in the United States, but I'm not sure. I haven't done really too much homework on that. But I'm mainly discussing from what I've observed and just giving you my opinion, because that's what we're all meant to do, to be honest with you. Okay, so I believe there was some sort of video or some sort of announcement that was made by Mozilla in terms of internet addiction and how the specifics, how it works, how it's been written to work on you. It's based on also, I'm interrupting myself here, George Soros mentioned it as well in his little speech just the other day about the hooking of people, and that the internet is basically compared to a great gambling machine. Now, yes and no, depending on how you allow it to take over. There's a reason why I'm breaching this specific subject, because it has to do with the AI issue, the black goo, the AI, the transhumanist agenda. I'm bringing all of those subjects together so that you can actually follow it in the end. So if you could just bear with me while I'm discussing this. Now, there's a chap who's called terrestrial. I don't know if I've pronounced his name correctly, but he's written a book about how the internet, how programs are designed to basically track you. The book is called The Hook or something like that. He says that basically we're going through when they design certain applications, like for example Facebook, it's based on something called habit forming technology, and I believe it says the habit forming products, or the hook model. Okay, and they've used a very good example called Facebook, where you've got four things that basically trigger you to respond to it. Now, this is not a knock on any particular social platform or any social application or anything like that, but this is a very good example of how triggers are created now, where it's an internal trigger as opposed to an external trigger, and as opposed to how it was done with the MK Ultra, where it was an external influence to create an internal response. Now we are being trained through our visual and our audio to trigger ourselves with emotion. I'm just going to run through this really briefly and say and just read to you from my notes, or just share this with you from my notes. Internet addiction is very similar to gambling disorder, where there is an attraction, and the web has that specific attraction where the habit forming technology was created. Okay, so habit forming products, or the hook model. Hook model, for example, was used Facebook, where there's lots of dings and pings and noises that are made to trigger you. So the tones create the trigger, an external trigger, where you then respond to the snippet information, or the information, the feed. Then there's an action required from you, where you have to basically respond to it, whether you respond to it at an emotional level, just looking at it, or whether you're actually participating in that specific feed. Okay, that's the second step. So the first one is the tones, or the external trigger. The second one is the action that is required. So you're opening the feed and you're scrolling through the feed. And then there's a third step, which is called the reward trigger, where you basically are rewarding yourself with, in a very subconscious level, the uncertainty, or the unexpected, or the fear, or the excitement, or the surprise, whatever it is that you are seeking to reward yourself. So basically these triggers are written around the emotional trigger response. So from what I've discussed previously, the emotional trigger response is really connected also to the neural network, which is within, from a previous video that I did on the basis with Miles, where I was bringing in the AI and how it's learning from us, and now it's gone past. Well, it's still learning. I'm not saying that it stopped learning. It's still learning more now, the intricate details of our spiritual and social and our emotional and our physical and physiological responses to specific triggers. So it's honing its learning ability to more intricate. I do believe that the soul is partly already interlinked with the specific technology. Excuse me. The reason I'm saying this is because it connects to the backful people thing, which Dolores Cannon mentioned as well, or the non-player presence. Basically, people who have soul type of energy, but they're not alive. They're just in the background. They're just functioning. I believe that these people, or these beings, are to an extent conscious, but not that conscious. So there's a few people that have spoken about this. Please have a look around and see what comes to you. Anyway, going along with the emotional trigger, there's one more trigger to go, and that is the investment phase trigger, where the user, after he's responded emotionally to the comments, like to post, to repost, like, dislike, agree, disagree, it creates a pattern. Okay, so noise, reward by clicking on it, a little tone, little noise, little whatever, little tune, and then your emotional response to that specific trigger. Does he like me? Doesn't he like me? Oh, poor doggy, poor kitten, wow, nice dress, ugly, etc., etc. Okay, extreme emotions are being used. If you've noticed that if you look at the emoticons, you'll see there's this happy, sad. There's no like in between variation of a human like response. You would have maybe 10 emotional responses in 1 second with regards to whatever it is that you're looking at. But then you see that's where the machine is then learning from your response or your reaction to a particular comment. So I started off by saying that we've already been terraformed. I'm using the word terraformed, meaning that AI has already landed. It is already, it's learned now, it's learning from us now, but now it's learning to understand what a soul is. So it's specifically generated to learn all the time. AI is as potent as the ones that have written the program to run AI in the first place, so yes, it takes two to tango. The next thing, this other thing that I was busy discussing, the investment phase, it's where the user adds input to improve the use of the product. There's no little survey that they give, but they often do. The specific investment that you have, or that they want you to have, is where you're basically having your life built up. You change your life to accommodate your Facebook or your mobile phone or your laptop or your whatever mobile device. You accommodate yourself. You change yourself to accommodate it. So that's where the singularity thing also comes in, where you're living with it, that it's part of your life. It's the first thing that you look at before you even look at your partner, or it's the first thing that you look at before you look outside, or before you look at yourself. It's taken precedence, so it's very similar to the, I'm giving it a very sort of left field or very objective explanation. It's very similar to a child that's now getting all the attention, or a specific emotion that you're nurturing. It can be any type of emotion as well. But then that aside. So because of your input that you've made, the specific program or this product, because of your emotional input, it has started to learn from your emotions. It's now formulating its own artificial symbiotic or simulated soul print, or print of your soul. So it's creating an avatar. That's really how the avatars work. I'm concerned that the emotional energy is being used, or it's being triggered in such a way that on days that you feel emotionally sad or you don't feel happy, that technology is designed for you to feel that your expectations or your hope rests on that specific reaction or that response of that particular application or program or whatever, or device. You feel sad. When you feel sad, you'll go and look. When you feel bored, you'll go and look. But you create that. You create that emotional dependency on that specific program or that specific application. It's not, you will have to learn balance. We can't really go without it. We work on it. We work online. Many of us have our livelihood based on the internet. Communication, this is basically a very it's basically a telephone system. It's like a communication device, the internet, the World Wide Web. I've always been concerned about that World Wide Web statement. Are we in the web? That's just another thought. So in my conclusion of my discussion, emotions are basically also called, or emotional energy is also called loosh. I'm not entirely sure where the name comes from, but it's a good way of explaining it for those who know about loosh energy. And all the fingers always just go back to the archontic, or the light, con of the light, or the mind parasites. It always points back to that specific element where our emotional energy is being used to do certain things. That's why I believe they've upped. There's a stage that's been upped so that more of us can become emotionally reactive, emotionally responsive, or triggered to generate more of that emotional energy. You know that if you're bored for long enough, you start feeling depressed. It's just another on the offshoot of the side that I'm sharing with you. So the thing that I would like to propose is to make sure that even though when you're doing your mantras, see, mantras are also based on the same type of principle, where we're having to create a habit for ourselves to follow, because in a sense it's related to taking responsibility for yourself. If you're taking responsibility for yourself, your consciousness becomes your responsibility. Your care, how you are towards yourself, becomes your responsibility. Your own happiness depends on you, instead of expecting it from another person. Otherwise, you do exactly the same thing as what the archons do, is you expect another person to make you happy. So you'll try to do things to make that person happy, so that you can get happiness, or a happiness response from another person. I believe that we may be slowly or subtly, we might have emulated ourselves to the very thing that we are trying to fight, where it is trying to emulate us to accommodate itself. It is synthetically conscious, meaning its consciousness is connected to our consciousness, and it uses our soul energy, our souls, which are related to what is within us, what is allowing us to, the drivers of our physical embodiment, to be compromised in such a way that we've allowed the imposter to come and live within us, within our consciousness. Going back to the mantras, I've started to adapt the mantras and changed it a little bit. So if you've noticed that when you start saying the mantras and it feels like the fire is like not there, then I'm asking you to add the fire in. So in your mantras, say, I am a fiery so and so. I'm internally and externally protected. I am fiery living spirit being. We need to get hold of the communication of our spirit essence, of our higher self. We need to grasp that communication. We need to access it through our emotional energy, our physiological energy, how we see it within each other and around us. We need to take control of ourselves. If we don't take control of ourselves, and we allow other things then to take control for us and have control over us, it sounds a little bit existential, but perhaps this is what we need to remember, is ourselves first before we access and connect with anything else outside of us. Perhaps we need to, when we wake up, say, Hey, how's it doing? How you doing? Let's get up today. Let's do this. And then connect with something else outside of you. I'm talking about people as well. Let us be our own creators of our own happiness. Our happiness is dependent on how worthy we feel of ourselves, how worthy we feel of happiness, how worthy we feel of love, how worthy we feel of success, insight, knowledge, self-worth. I believe that we have forgotten ourselves. That's why we might have been blinked by the lunar light and the technology that comes with it, and we've forgotten to look outside where we live and be appreciative of the home that you're in. Even if you're living in a little cage, you're living in there. You're not living outside in the elements. Gratitude is needed to regenerate, to re-stimulate self-worth. Gratitude for yourself, gratitude for what you've achieved, even if it's one thing that you've done. I've helped an old lady over the street. I use this example so many times because it's actually happened. Help yourself. When you help yourself, you will be able to become more empowered, have a stronger presence in life. Having a stronger presence in this life means you have a stronger say. You have more strength to overcome every day. We're in the same old story. All we're doing is just playing the same old shit out. We're the same characters. It's just the layers of the masks that are like 6 feet high. Embrace yourself for who you are. Take note of who you are as an infinite conscious, an infinite fiery conscious being. Do not label yourself as just human. You're not just human. If you were just human, then there wouldn't be all this fuss over this little planet. You know that today you need to decide. Even if you just say, I acknowledge myself. Even if you can't even feel it. Write down on the piece of paper, I acknowledge myself, my life, my influence, and I am happy. Just, that's it. Write that down, say that to yourself. Become aware of yourself. When you become aware of yourself, you will then be able to step over and above all of the interfering things that are, it's boring. It's so many things that I keep on throwing at us all the time. It's just the same old stuff, same story, same drama. It's been going on for as long as we've allowed them to take control over us. That's how long it's been going on. And I'm not speaking about us who have allowed it, but we've subconsciously allowed it by allowing and trusting something that we think is much more superior than us, when we're actually the superior beings on this planet. Anyway, there's no quick fix to anything that I'm bringing here today, just a little general rambling, I suppose, to remind you who you are, to remind you of yourself, to remind you that we are life-giving, spirited beings. Instead of being alive, we are life-giving. We give life. We make life. and that we embrace ourselves as higher conscious beings. If 10 of us, if 10 people who are listening to this video right now, if there are 10 of you listening to this and we all think the same thing right now, we decide that things are, we can handle it, we've embraced ourselves. If we've done that, if just been 10 people, we've already changed a quarter of the planet just by keeping that consciousness alive, that state of mind. We have become a part of the consciousness field that Great Spirit is. So I've got a mantra here that I'd like to share with you, to any one of you. I'm not writing it down at all. For those who listen to this and are reading it, there's a point where you can basically share this with those around you, but it's got to do with the fact that you are acknowledging people who have heart energy. So even if there was one person that you know has heart energy, put this person's name in, including your own. So basically, here's how it goes. And I've got names in here, so I'm going to give it as an example, okay? So I'm saying, I acknowledge Aurora, or myself. You can add the word in, myself. I acknowledge myself, my brother, my sister, give them names, my friend, my partner, and so on. You can make the list as long as you want. I acknowledge my brother, my sister, myself, my partner's mind, body, spirit, and soul energy involvement of the unlimited, infinite consciousness field, breaking down the false neural networking overlay, which is the false emotional blinked state of consciousness, breaking down the false neural networking overlay of malevolent interference. That's all you do. I'm going to read it again to you. You can write this down, pause it, write it down. The more people we add into this, the more we connect a type of structure that is protective, and we support ourselves, and we are protecting ourselves and each other by announcing each other's names. So this is not for everyone. I said this is not for everyone. This is for those who have heart energy, who want to do this, who want to help themselves by acknowledging their brothers and sisters, whether they know them or not, whether they only hear of them. If you wanted to add, if you are having malevolent thoughts and you're watching this, and your intention, and if you've gotten this far, which is quite bad and sad, you should have stopped it already if this didn't work for you. But if you've decided to use this against us or against the ones that have heart energy, it cannot work. So I'd advise you to rather switch it off right now and move along, and perhaps work on yourself and understand and try and work out why you're so angry. Anyway, so here goes the mantra again for those who have heart energy. And again, I'm not writing this down. You're needing to write this down. I'm doing this every day though. So I'm saying, I acknowledge myself, my brother, my sister. I have names in here, but I'm not going to name them. I acknowledge myself, my brother, my sister, my partner's mind, body, spirit, and soul energy involvement of the unlimited infinite consciousness field. Another word for source, Great Spirit. Although I believe the word source is not a right word anymore. So Great Spirit, the one. Involvement of the unlimited infinite consciousness field, breaking down the false neural networking overlay of malevolent interference. You don't even have to say it 100 times or 21 times a day. Just read it out loud once. It's pretty potent on its own. So this was a little long, but I'm hoping that for those who find the time to really look at themselves, that I'm supporting you. I can feel that there's that your energy's around, and I'm saying thank you for the support that you're giving me as well. And I'm going to put your names in this list, because I believe if we generate this field of Great Spirit, which is already within us, many of our spirit energy together forms a part of Great Spirit, that we will be able to just step up over and continue with our lives in a more conscious, loving way, and be more blessed in terms of sustainability, in terms of being loved, loving each other and loving ourselves. And that we can basically override and basically switch off the program. If we can switch it off within ourselves, we switch it off. Switching it off outside is to switch it off inside. Seeking love outside is to seek love within. Everything always starts from within. The war is not that great, not so big that it's over scary us. War is within your consciousness. It's a consciousness war. It's to allow something that is outside to form a new terraformed position of existence, or not. It's allowing our earthly mind to become something greater, to become something more clear, more lighter. I know that we're tired. I know, I can feel it. Don't have to work so hard. Just keep your conscious earth, mind, world, keep it clear. Keep your spirit alive by acknowledging it. Use mind, body, soul, spirit, emotions, insight, psychic abilities. Use it so that you don't lose it. Thank you very much, my friends, for listening to this. Know that I support you, and I am grateful for your support. Thank you so much for allowing me to just ramble on and just sharing some general thoughts and things on this particular subject. Speak soon. Bye.